G'day, g'day, you beautiful humans. It's wonderful to have you here again. I'm Dan, and I'm just really excited that we get to hang out again on your Monday or your Tuesday, potentially, if you're in the future. I don't think anyone's still in Sunday though. But if you are, we'd love to come back and see you. 'Cause Sunday was a great time. Didn't have to do anything on Sunday. I see you jerks in the comments there taking bets on certain things. That's lovely. I guess there's a pretty hot streak going on with people guessing what I'm drinking. So I guess I'll have to try and change that up. For those, in the comments who don't necessarily know, g'day is the Australian form of saying hello. But I guess like internationally we'd say bar weep, grana weep, mini bomb as the appropriate way to greet someone. It is the universal greeting for those who don't know. Yeah, DJ. Definitely you're in the future, 100%. You're a fair bit ahead of us there, which is, that's cool. That's not bad. It's a nice place to be. You got lots going on. But we've got a fair bit to talk about today. We got a bit to go with. So obviously there's been a lot that's gone on in the last couple of days as far as things go. Yes, one of the miracles that we have to talk about is the fact that LLV has chosen to play Dispossessed. Cheers. I love it when a stats man picks someone so low down on the ladder, it's like you know what it is. It's 1954 here. Oh man, and there's so much that we need to warn you about, Slanice. Elf Bro, oh babe, so lovely to see you. Yeah, right. Yeah, alright, son. But cheers, LLV, jumping on the Dispossessed train. So obviously the big stuff that we're going to have a chat about, Fire Slayers just got confirmed with a whole lot of good fun goobies. Like that's just wicked, right? Like Fire Slayers have some stuff coming out. Two big events coming out of Australia. For those of you who missed it over the weekend, there was the Anzac Bash, basically, which is out in Canberra, and that was a big one. Pretty awesome, pretty cool. A lot of people traveling for that one. There was also the first heat of the Australian official Age of Sigmar Championships, which is just fucking awesome. There's a little bit of contention potentially from people, and that was because people were a little bit disappointed, I guess, that the heats were happening, but they were being held in Brisbane, which for a lot of the rest of the country is quite further. People may be thinking that it should have been in a slightly better place, like a more central place. No, better. I'll go with better. I grew up in Brisbane. I know what it's like. But basically, see you later, Arkahan. Have a good one. Yep, almost busted the name there. But basically, some people were disappointed that the official heats were not a particularly central location. However, at the end of the day, their biggest like space to do it in, everything like that was there. And I think the thing we all got to remember is that stuff like this has to start somewhere, and then if it goes good, potentially that gets spread out. We see more. I mean, I just think it's fucking awesome that like the community team is talking about they're going to come out to Australia and do some stuff. I would really love to see that grow into supporting more of the independent scene in Australia, because the independent scene here, there in Australia, in the land of my birth, really is just that, independent, like on its own and doing its own thing. And that's fucking awesome. Like, I'm not saying that anyone needs to do anything for each other. Like, we're a community, but we also, you've got to do your own shit. You can't rely on other people to do it. But it would be awesome to see maybe that spread out to a few more events around Australia, the same way that it's spread throughout the UK and the US, like a terrible, terrible disease brought on by anti-vaxxers, weakening our immunity pool. Elfbro's alluding to what we will talk about shortly, which is the results of the heat. We'll talk about the results of all of it, actually. And the big ticket thing that I'd really, really obviously want to be chatting about is those Fire Slayers, baby. Oof. Oh, man. There's some angry, bearded hatred on the horizon, and I'm fucking stoked, right? Everything that they've popped out for theirs, all of it, it just looks like something else, doesn't it? There have been a few things said that I now can't get images out of my head. Mr. Nathan Prescott, I'll let you all in on that one shortly. But yeah, we'll start the show in a second, but this is just my chance to say to you, the people who rocked up first and foremost, you're fucking legends. G'day, and it's beautiful to have you here. And I hope you're all having a wonderful drink with me because it's Monday, so we have to forget where we are. I'm drinking whiskey for a medicinal reason. Yep, that's what I'm going to go with. I had a few nights back to back of drinking. One with the local like War Dolly players here, and it done. They go hard. They go hard. So back in Australia, they'd be doing themselves proud. People would be very stoked with the level of effort put in. But there were just a number of nights in a row where I have drank everything, and my body is starting to reject it. And then last night I was like, you know what, just a cheeky, quiet dinner at a Korean place, and got introduced to soju, which is just like the best vodka you could ever possibly drink. So the whiskey is entirely medicinal. It's to soothe my burning throat that feels like a cat got down there and just like latched its claws in, and then somebody grabbed it by the tail and was trying to pull it out, and it's just gone all the way up. That's the visual representation of what's happening in my body right now. Look, I think you're right, Slanice. Like, they could pull the trigger and go full on in Australia, but I guess the thing that has to happen is it's not particularly a great time economically for stuff in Australia. There are things that might not be on the way. Like, it's not good. This level of confidence in the government is pretty much rock bottom. But so basically, I can understand why a company wouldn't want to invest potentially $1 million+ in doing that in Australia just yet. But what I hope is that this becomes the thing that allows them to justify it. That'd be fucking cool. I'd just love to see maybe like Games Days come back to Australia or something along those lines, because that'd be really wicked. For everyone who has been living under a rock, I guess a big thing that we obviously have to talk about, and I'm really quite excited to talk about, is that Fire Slayers, they're coming back, baby. They're getting a new thing. They're getting it all in together, and they're basically getting some hot stuff. And we're going to take a look at some of that hot stuff that was released today. Ooh, nearly knocked that one over. That'd be rough. So looking just over here, we have, oh gosh, don't we just have some wonderful stuff going on? That's a couple of beautiful prayers right there, and they're getting prayers, and that's pretty fucking awesome, right? So like the fact that Fire Slayers are now seeing a lot of that stuff come out, I'm hoping that it means that there's going to be different things. Also having a look at them, you can see that one's going off on a 4-up, one's going off on a 3-up. So obviously their prayers aren't quite as good as Dispossessed prayers, which go off on a 2. But, you know, it's nice that they've got them. It's nice that they're there. They are definitely like the shit version of Dispossessed in every possible way. But yeah, it's good to see that they're part of the team now. Yeah, I mean, like, let's be honest. If you were a deity of any kind, right, and you're a god, and just basically a hairy toga party started praying to you, asking for stuff, I assume you just give it to them to stop. You know, just be like, whoa, yeah, you guys, you know what? Have whatever the fuck you want. Just put on pants. I'll give you golden pants, no, like gold and pants. So separately, 2 separate things. I would like you to use one and wear the other. That'd be fucking great. So I think that's really cool, and it sounds like they're going to have a number of different ones as well, which that's kind of fucking awesome to hear. Oh yeah, this is the high-tech show now. We got overlays. We got some buttons. I got things that I do down here. Yep, it's not bad. It's coming along. So the Beastman cosplayers. Yeah, that's probably fair enough, except they just messed up where the hair was, really. Now, Fire Slayers have always had a really big place in my heart. I absolutely loved Slayers. The Gotrek and Felix novels are my all-time favorites, and I dig the new Realm Slayer stuff. Like, I love it. So playing dwarves back in old fantasy, I had 2 blocks of Slayers and 2 blocks of Slayers and a huge block of Longdrong Slayer pirates. Now, if you don't know what models they are, go back and Google them. They are from like that goofy period where everything had weird poses with maybe like a swapped hand, but they're fucking pirate slayers. I'm just gonna say that again. They are pirate slayers who had rules based around being like drunk. Like they were harder to hit because of the smell of alcohol and shit around them. People, why not golden pants? Yep, golden pants, they're probably a little bit more likely to wear them. LLV, absolutely nailing it. They got given pants and gold and they decided to wear the gold. Yes, that is incredibly true. That's exactly what they did. They were like holding up pants and holding up gold, and they're like, well, clearly one is a lot more durable as a fabric, and just threw the pants away and then just started like punching gold into them. The badass Doomseekers 100%. So they were slayers with 2 long chains wrapped around their wrists and axes attached to the ends of the chains. And you worked your way up as a slayer. So the better you were at killing things, the worse you were as a slayer, basically, because a slayer wants to die to like wipe away some mark of honor, just in case you don't know the old history of them. So if a dwarf did something they found dishonorable, if they broke an oath or whatnot, sometimes they might just kill themselves. But the thing is, if it was really bad, you couldn't just do that. You had to search for atonement. And the way that they did that was by shaving their head except for a big crest, dyeing their beard and crest orange, to basically represent the first Slayer. Which is a whole other story, total badass story. It's like Liam Neeson in Taken, except the daughter dies. Spoiler alert, where the first one came from. So yeah, Gotrek is literally the worst Slayer, because the better you are, so what you do is you dye your hair, you do all that, and then as a Slayer, you want to go and find the biggest thing that can kill you. So you don't want to die and just give up, but you want to be killed so that you're no longer filled with shame. And the best way to do that is to fight a dragon, but you want to kill the dragon, but at the same time you don't want to kill the dragon, you want the dragon to kill you. It's a really tricky situation for them to be in. And so Gotrek is kind of seen as, was in the old world, was seen as bad luck by other Slayers, but then other Slayers that got near him ended up dying, so then he started to be like a good luck magnet. It was really kind of messy, but it was fucking awesome. So I loved Slayers. They were the coolest. They worked their way up. So when you just started, you were called a Troll Slayer. And then if you got a bit better, or I assume killed a bunch of trolls, then you became a Giant Slayer. Then after Giant Slayer, you became a Dragon Slayer. And then the tippity top was a Demon Slayer. So that was the hierarchy of them. But obviously the better a fighter you were, the more you were revered for being a total fucking badass, but the less you were respected because you had broken an oath and you didn't even have the good graces to die about it. So it was a really, really cool stuff. When the Fire Slayer models came out, I loved them. I read a lot of their background and I really liked their background. But for me, their playstyle was nothing like Slayers, or what I expected Slayers should be. All of their stuff was based around durability. They were all about saves and not dying and everything like that. And for me, I was like, no, I want all of these Slayers, all these Hearthguard to be fucking brilliant in combat but have no save, because they're wearing bits of cloth or something. Make the runes make them super strong, not survive. Basically the thing that I was a bit disappointed by, was the fact that in transitioning them over, Slayers went from kind of seeking death to, they still got all the cool stuff about honor and loyalty and everything, and I really do dig the whole Sons of Grimnir thing. I think it's awesome, but I really did Vancouver move into an entirely different time zone, where I have no idea what time zone I'm in. I just feel like I'm in the new one. I'm in the time zone, and I'm still sleeping 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. because I'm not good at jet lag. So this is middle of the day for me as far as I'm feeling. But anyway, I found that the Slayers didn't have that playstyle. They didn't really suit the Slayers of old, which is fair enough. The story has changed, who they are has changed. But yeah, so I now, though, looking at some of these rules, I'm really digging it, because there's been a lot that's been said. So okay, so one of the big ones is that all of the Slayer infantry got an extra wound, which is massive. That means a 30-man block of Vulkites just went from 30 wounds to 60 wounds, which is fucking insane. Especially like if you compare it to the current edition, to 2.2, where Slayers are already one of the hardest fucking things to kill. I can attest to a game I played against them like last week. 30 Slayers just did not fucking die. It's PST time zone rules, yeah. I had PTSD after playing them, and I can only, that was one unit of 30. I can only imagine what it'd be like like I've seen tournament games where people rock up with 90 or 120 of them, and to give you an idea, they have a 4-up or a 5-up armor save, usually a 4-up armor save with a reroll, and then as long as there's 20 or more in the unit, they have a 4-up save after save. And then once 10 or 11 of them die, they have a 5-up save after save, and then a 6-up at the very end. So basically, they just fucking did not die. And if you were playing that, like, power to you if you got to turn 5. I know a bunch of tournaments where people were only getting to turn 2, turn 3 if they were lucky, and not even finishing turn 3. Yeah, how the fuck is that fun? That's exactly right. And I remember having a chat to Mike, who some of you from Australia might know. Mike is a big fucking legend, who is a big, lovely fucking dad. And I'm going to try and get an interview with him at some point in the next couple of weeks, because he plays a lot of Fire Slayers. I'll bring it up, but he 100% bought all of his Fire Slayers before the Start Collecting boxes came out. And then just as he finished the army, they released the Start Collecting box with 10 Half-Guard Berserkers and a Magma-droth. And suffice it to say, he was a bit salty about that. And so basically, the whole thing with Volkites is that they don't die. And I can only imagine, like, when people were taking 90 and 120 to tournaments and doing well and winning, it wasn't necessarily because you defeated your opponent. It was because you got up on objectives and then only got to turn 3. Like, it's stuff like that. Yep, Slan Ice, they should be the fucking brawlers, 100%. Elf Bro, Hayden, yeah, you're damn right, you're on it. They're not the kind of thing that should be able to just survive. They should get wrecked. Like, they should get absolutely fucking shit mixed, but they die hardly, which is why I dig 2 wounds. Because Slayers their whole shtick was that they were monumentally tough, right? They were really hard to kill. They just would not die. But the rule for them was that with that toughness, it was like they had a high toughness. They had a high tolerance for pain. They could take a lot before they died. It wasn't like they shrugged off wounds and just kept going. It was like they were kind of like orcs in that they were too stubborn to die. So I kind of like the idea that they have 2 wounds. It just makes they seem more staunch to me without having to seem, I don't know, like they just reflect injury, which I think reflects them a lot better. I think it's fucking awesome. I love it. I'm all about it. I think it's a great change. I hope that means that they don't have that ward save, that save after save. Like, give them a 5-up, 4-up save. Shit, give them a reroll, but don't give them a way that they just magically dance off wounds, because it doesn't make sense, and it kind of takes away from their beefy brawniness. And let's be honest, if you are playing Fire Slayers, it's because you dig an army of short, stocky men with no necks and very little knee that are like, they're like the typical and wonderful diamond shape. You know, people, they're like guys, they're like, oh yeah, I want to be a V. I want to be big on top, thin on the bottom, you know, so I'm a V. And then, you know, girls want that like hourglass figure. Dispossessed are all about the prism figure, which is, you know, like top, bottom, and thick in the middle. That's what Dispossessed are all about. Fire Slayers are all about that thickness, that beefiness. A couple of good, yeah. But then again, like Hypno Kraken, it's not that they skip leg day, it's that they skip calf day. So from like the knee down, they do nothing. But then from like knee to hip, they're just, I don't know, half squats. I know for a fact that there's at least one personal trainer in the chat. So how you would beef up your mid leg without beefing up your drumstick, let me know. That'd be awesome. But yeah, they're cool. They're beefy. I love that they feel like it. And these prayers as well really come them to me. Like, I love the idea that the prayer to give them 1-up save is a harder prayer to get off. I really hope that they don't have a way of re-rolling it. As much as I think re-rolling stuff is really cool, in a lot of different ways. I hate that Khorne can re-roll their prayers. I really don't think that I want them to be able to re-roll their prayers either. Everybody should have like the same shot at it, basically. But like I said before, they are fucking awesome. They're really cool. And here's another little sneaky tidbit that just butters my biscuit. And that's this one, like right here. When we have a look at these two little rules in conjunction, and if I've gotten this right, that should be coming up on your screen right about now. Now I think I nailed that. I'm going to give myself some snaps if I did. Yeah, there we go. Nailed it. Yeah, good job. So basically what we're looking at here is like, and what I really want to point out, two things. First of all, look at all these extra attacks that are popping up in there. That's just really nice. That's great. They're snaps. Thank you. Yeah. If it didn't work, I'd be throwing it through. Thick possessed. Yeah, thick possessed to be right. So basically, what we're looking here is extra attacks on all of them, which is awesome. The only way to make them good used to be by putting them in a formation that let them attack twice. Extra attacks, extra stuff going on, extra wound on all of these boys as well. Thick possessed. Yeah, so thick possessed, that's my new love. That's going to be, so there's dispossessed, and then there is the desire, their attention, what they desire, and that's thick possessed. Which, now thick possessed doesn't necessarily mean that it's a thickly possessed, dispossessed man or maiden. That could just be a really thick, like, barrel of aging rum or something like that. So let's remember that they could love anything. The dispossessed are nothing if not a welcoming and non-judgmental, non-conformative society who love inclusion at the expense of all else. But yeah, so up here, couple of things just to have a cheeky little look at. So the first thing we're looking here is those extra attacks. Punching up extra attacks suddenly makes them the actual combat punch of this army, which is what it has been surprisingly lacking. Like previously, the way that you saw damage done was through grindy combat and just sheer number of low quality attacks, which really didn't seem very much like Dispossessed had a better stat line and a better weapon line than Fire Steel. And like we're talking like weedy little Dispossessed warriors versus like big, beefy, thick Fire Slayers, and yet the Dispossessed had a better stat line. And that just doesn't seem right. I 100% think that one-on-one a Fire Slayer would be better than a Dispossessed, but I just think the difference is the Fire Slayer doesn't have the discipline or the wisdom or just the skill and experience to take him out. So I like that these are finally actually what they should be. A tough, multiple attacks, just pushing shit in left, right, and center. It's great. Oh my gosh, please, yes. Nicki Minaj Fire Slayers, fucking make it a thing. And then like have them all do the Anaconda dance as well, by the way. You know, play. They didn't always have two LLV. That's the thing. Oh, maybe these guys did, but the half guard I think didn't. Whatever. They're basically, yeah, Lords of the Lodge was fucked. It let a unit pile in and attack twice. It had some other dumb shit. But at the same time, like, you needed Lords of the Lodge to make these super expensive combat units, like the ones that were supposed to be the heart and soul of the punch of the army, make them work, and it never really did. Now they do. The other thing to have a cheeky look at up here that they've kind of revealed is the Fire Steel throwing axes. So every Fire Slayer basically, along with probably having more muscle than most other things in the mortal realms, and like beards and gigantic axes to chop you with, and shields that they'd throw at you to like cut your throat, yeah, like literally they had shields, and the shit behind them was to throw their shields. How undwarfy is that? But the whole thing behind their stuff was that they were just like absolutely fucking insane, right? Like cuckoo pants insane. But then they're also not stopping throwing axes at you. Like I imagine it's like one of the scenes from like a buddy cop movie or something like that, or like I imagine they probably did it in Rush Hour, where like someone just keeps throwing knives and they're just like, just stop throwing fucking knives at me, man, it's not cool. Like that's what I imagine fighting Fire Slayers is like. Like you're just standing there being like, yep, sweet, let's go, and they just won't stop throwing shit, and you're like, Jeff, dude, come on, just calm the fuck down. Now, for those not familiar with the way that Fire Slayers play, because they do represent LLV, I think you just chimed in a little while ago, less than 1% of the current meta, even given their like recent kind of rise in popularity that came recently. The thing with them is that every turn you choose a different rune, so different from the list of runes to activate. You roll a dice, on a 6 it gets activated even better. Now what you have up here is an example of the new stat line for throwing axes. So 5s and 5s. It's not a huge chance, but it's a little thing that would scratch you off. I believe they used to be 4s and 5s, or 4s and 4s, or something like that. And that rune right there, the upgraded one used to increase range and stuff like that, and I think to hit as well. So what we're kind of seeing here, and what I dig, is that +1 to hit, +1 to wound, which means that they'll be doing 0.8%. Thank you, LLV, 0.8. Yeah, they used to be 4s and 4s, so they were pretty decent attack, and a lot of the time Fire Slayers players were using that to do more damage than a lot of the rest of their shit. So it's kind of cool to see that these throwing axes have become like a secondary weapon, but you get like even still, if half of your shots are hitting, and let's remember at the moment, whether it changes or not, it's a horde army. So 120 Fire Slayers throwing their goddamn axes was just fucking insane. But the fact that they've now brought that back and just made it this kind of thing, I like it. I like that it's a secondary weapon for them. It doesn't feel like their primary weapon anymore. It feels like in the middle of battle, if they're fighting around, they just like a hand flicks out and like a blade just like goes spinning off to kill someone. And that, it suits their vibe entirely. They shouldn't be snipers with an axe. They shouldn't be as good a shot with a throwing axe as somebody is with a crossbow or a sniper rifle. Like that just seems kind of ridiculous. So I really like what they've done. So maybe, I think what we might be seeing here is at the moment, if you're playing as Fire Slayers and you use those allegiance ability runes, you roll a dice and on a 6 you get that enhanced effect, which you can see up there. So you get the 1 for just activating the rune, +1 to hit, but you also get +1 to wound if you roll the 6. Now on the old Fire Slayers, like the buff was Ninja Dwarfs, 100% Ninja Dwarfs, agile Ninja Dwarfs throwing stars, but every end of the star is a tiny little axe, and it's just like. So what you used to see was these weapons on the regular is, everyone, I'm pretty sure every single Fire Slayer has a throwing axe, LLV. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but I'm pretty sure there isn't a Fire Slayer model that doesn't have a throwing axe unless they've got like a javelin that they throw at you. So basically, they had a lot of those runes. If you rolled the 6, if you activated the turn ability and rolled the 6, the upgrade was insane. Like 0 to hero kind of shit that really would turn a game around, which is kind of cool. But it also meant that if your opponent got lucky, rolled a couple of 6s, they could real quickly dominate and push your poo in with this army that refused to die. So what I like here is that we're kind of seeing that they do have a strong effect, but then if you roll the 6, the effect is still increased. It still gets really good. Like, I mean, +1 to hit and wound, no one's upset by that. That's like everyone having Gaia Strike. But the whole thing with their runes then empowering and coming up to a decent level, as opposed to being like, yeah, that's fucking crazy. They should not be able to do that. Like, you watch 6 dudes run, I think, with 4-inch models traveled like 21 inches in a turn or something with moves and charges and stuff like that. Oh yeah, sorry, Grixty, welcome. Sorry, a few other people getting caught out. Obviously, in Australia, daylight savings just ended. Welcome, and I think they maybe got close. No, we came closer together. We came closer together. So right now, Vancouver, we just got a little bit closer to the rest of the world. That makes me feel good. Makes me feel like I'm back home again, and that's a wonderful thing to feel. You know, that's great. So basically, of these units, the ones that you're looking at, I believe that they both could be taken as battle line depending on who is your general. So they had a whole lot of stuff. Oh, Hypno-Kraken, you beautiful human being. Yeah, well, that's it. The Aussies, we need stuff. I mean, I finally found a place that sells Australian beer over here, so I'm in a really happy place to be. So thank you very much, Hypno-Kraken. We will, damn it, I need cables. So I either need to buy cables or I need to buy beer. So Australians, I'm going to tell you something, and I hope it doesn't disappoint you, because It really disappointed me until I realized that it was making my life heaps better. No, it wasn't finding Foster's. No, I found a whole range of fantastic Australian beers like Kosciuszko, Little Creatures, White Rabbit, stuff like that. I found those here. Yeah, I did. And the best thing was the price tag. So for a 6-pack of them, $10 to $15. $10 to $15 for a 6-pack of beer that in Australia would run you at like, what, 20, 25 for a 6-pack? It was amazing. It was beautiful. And I suddenly realized how fucked our liquor laws up must be in Australia. Like that tax revenue, woo, baby. But it's amazing. My cupboards overfloweth and I'm drinking through the whiskey. Obviously, like I said, medicinal whiskey. Medicinal. That's why there's a red cross drawn on the bottle. As soon as I'm done that, I'm moving on to it because it's incredible. It's beautiful. So we're in a good place. We're in a good place. Thank you, Vancouver, for importing other beers. Jim 980 arriving a little bit late, wanting a recap. Fuck, I can't remember. A lot of stuff's happened. We had a little chat about alcohol, which is unusual. I have not yet complained about the temperature because people were giving me shit about that. And we were talking about the fact that some cool tournaments have gone on. We haven't really covered that. Right now we're talking about Fire Slayers and how they're getting new shit coming out and how cool some of that new shit looks. So yeah, the beer bar, there was an authentic Aussie beer bar in Leeds and all they sold was Foster's. I should have fucking known that there was something come on that. So basically there was a whole lot of really, really cool stuff revealed for Fire Slayers over the last couple of days. For those who are just catching up with us, the new rules, new everything, all of that. No, well, that's all right, man. Jim, I just want to help you. It's the people's show. I want everyone to know what's going on. Tons of cool Fire Slayer stuff. What we're talking about right now is the change. We're going through some of the changes that they've shown off that look just fucking spectacular, right? Like they're beefier. That's one thing. Myself, the chat, we discussed it. They are a whole lot beefier than they used to be. More wounds. We talked about how for a Fire Slayer, it's all about that thickness. It's about that girth because men, they want that V figure, like the broad shoulders, the fine legs. Women, they talk about wanting that hourglass figure, that clickety-clack kind of thing. Fire Slayers are about that prism figure. They want like the triangle, inverted triangle, and then the regular triangle. So they got all that meaty thickness in the like thigh to nip area. That's what they want. Fire Slayers, very specific about the things that they like. Right now we're talking about throwing axes, we're talking about the runes, and the reason that I'm bringing all this up, like the reason that I'm talking about all these things is that for the first time, I feel like the Fire Slayers rules are going to reflect what they are in the worlds and in the story and stuff like that. Not to give anything away, but during the Realm Slayer stuff, there's a Fire Slayer who rocks around, and it's great. Like, he's a bit fat, he's a bit overweight, not the healthiest dude, and like regularly will be fighting himself to the point where he feels like he's going to throw up and stuff, but then just keeps going. Like, it's that kind of like keep getting fucked up. And at one point he basically knows that doing something is like not going to work. Like, there's a tiny fucking chance that it's going to work. And he's just like, yep, well, this fucking sucks. I guess this is what's expected of me. And then like ends up blowing off half of his fucking arm. Like as in like the meat and bone just shreds. It's so baller. It's an awesome scene. It's amazing. If you haven't listened to Realm Slayer yet, treat yourself. It's great. Brian Blessed is amazing as Gotrek. But in fact, the whole voice cast on that whole thing is spectacular. They do an amazing job. And it's a really fun story. Who's the character and what books do they? That's Realm Slayer, man. I'm talking about Realm Slayer. And the Fire Slayer book as well was a really cool one as well. Yeah, no one can handle Grimnir's girth. Grimnir is a girthy and mighty deity. And I also imagine a fire crutch as well. So he's not everyone's cup of tea, but for the people whose cup of tea he is, he's obviously just a bit of a dreamboat, I would assume. But jumping back on track from that little sidetrack, all the stuff that they've been releasing for them, it makes me feel like they're going to play right. in the same way that, yes, flesh eater courts are fucked. Like, let's just get the pen and we'll just put a quick line under it just here. They just go, and we'll just, there we go. So I don't know if you can read my handiwork just there, but we've got flesh eater courts equals fucked. And we're just going to put a line under that. And then we'll put another line under it, and we'll put a little one of these there, just so that we know. So I think the light was probably a little bit bright for that one, but just in case you weren't aware, flesh eater courts are fucked. Just totally otherworldly, not right. It's kind of intense. And we'll have a chat about it in a minute. But the one thing about flesh eater courts that I kind of dig is their rules make me feel like they play like they should. I'm backwards. Oh, it's like reversed like a mirror. I didn't even know that the cam did that. Maybe it just wants left to be left and right to be right. Or maybe it's hoping that someone's driving and then it will catch you out and make you turn in the wrong direction. I don't know. But the flesh eater courts and the Skaven too, for that matter, they thought I parted my hair on the other side. It only parts one way. It's kind of like the Red Sea. It parts and then it crashes back together whenever all the lice try to get out. But yeah, flesh eater courts play like they should. They play the way that all of the stories describe them. And for the first time, I know a lot of people got on board, not because they're competitive assholes who deserve to die, but some of you do. You know who you are. No, it's that the flesh eater courts have suddenly got the stuff together so that they're kind of like reflecting the book. Because I remember reading the flesh eater courts battle tome, loving it. Like there's one piece of art in that book which still to this day sticks with me, and it's the one of I think it's a bone sticking out of like a pile of bones, but then the reflection of it is like a beautiful sword, like the shadow of it on the back of the cave is this beautiful sword, and it's like what the Ghoul Kings are seeing, and all of the background, all of the work and the love and the fiction of that battle tome is top notch, and it gripped me hard. And so I jumped on board. I bought a whole army, and then I got through building it and playing it. And even as far as the Last General's Handbook, playing it didn't feel like playing my army, like my army that I had read about. But the new Flesh Eater Court, seeing how they play, seeing everything like that, for the first time, they are suddenly the army that I remember playing, that I remember reading about and wanting to play, and that's just fucking awesome. And the same with the Skaven, with like the whole vortex trap and their magic use and everything. It's fucking awesome. It's great. They just absolutely nailed it. And I feel like so far with these rules for Fire Slayers, they've nailed it too. Sorry, just catching up a little bit. Other than the 4 Behemoth list, are Flesh Eater Courts fucked in total? Yeah, pretty much. They basically have a lot of really good options, especially like what are two things that are currently dominating the scene, and that's summoning and monsters. And so you have big monsters that summon, and they are absolutely just awesome. And then they've got things like Feast Day, which you can take army-wide and get for free every turn. That means at the start of it, you get to pile in and attack again. Basically, yeah, there's Blisterkin, Dead Watch, there's so many amazing things you can do with that book. I think, to be honest, Skaven is actually quite balanced. The one problem I have, there's one thing I don't like in the whole Skaven book, and that's that the vortex, the warp vortex, goes off twice in the turn that it's set up. There's no other one that works like that. Like every other endless spell, it's cast, you get the rewards, but then as an opponent, you don't have to worry about that until the next priority roll. I really don't like that vortex can, effectively it gives you two, like if you play smart, 2d3 hits on multiple units for one spell. And it also has all the side effects of slowing them down, fucking up movement, everything like that. Potentially trapping units. That's the one that's crazy, right? Like you can just trap shit in if it doesn't have fly. So they're great. They're just undercosted. LLV, you've hit the nail on the head. But apart apart from that vortex, the only thing I would do is either make the vortex 150 points or make it maybe 1 point harder to cast. But the rest of Skaven for me isn't too bad. They're not too bad. Then you look at Flesh Eater Courts and that is just fucking insane. It's either one or two things didn't happen. So basically I feel like this is the way it works. So the rules and the points are kind of like they're moving around here. You've got that little balance. You've got one that comes up and then people go, oh, we'll do this, and then they bring that down. And so different things dance around. I feel like what happened is the points just ran out of steam, but the rules just kept going and going and going. When you can summon as much as you can and still be fucking cool with everything, there's something to be said there about that not being great. But that's getting an entire sidetrack into Flesh Eater Courts. Doesn't mean that you can just like playing willy-nilly, but at the end of the day, when you're piling in and attacking twice, when you're striking first in combat, when you're doing all of this stuff, you don't have to bleed too much to make it work, especially when you just auto-summon things for no command points, because your terrain piece is effectively a battery. You can look all of that up in War Scrolls if you like. But the reason I want to talk about all of this cool stuff, right? The thing that's kind of get me all giddy on the insides for him is that... Nope. So I hit some buttons and... Oh no, there we go. Oh fuck, I hit the right buttons. I hit the right buttons. Gosh, I'm learning buttons, team. I'm learning buttons. And we're learning together. As a team, we're learning. And what can't you spell team without? Meat. Can't spell team without meat. Now the other thing that I want to have a chat about here is this fucking cool, so this is one of the like formation, like effectively like clans, you know, like you've got all the different things like the temples and stuff in Daughters of Cain, you've got the clans. So this one here, they really, really love Magma-droths. I guess they're kind of like, you know, when people are either like cat people or dog people or whatnot, and then they're a bit lonely and they've got a lot of time on their hands, so they just get like a lot of cats. Like, I mean, in the chat, sign off on what you think. Like, how many cats is it before you become like a crazy cat person? Because I feel like it's less. I feel like you can have a lot more dogs than you can cats. Like, you could have 5 dogs and people just assume you are the nicest person on the planet. But if you had 5 cats, like, I wouldn't go to your house because I know that you're going to introduce me to all of them and like tell me about their personalities and stuff like that. And I am clearly a dog person, but I love cats. Jim 981. Okay, yep. Like 4 and 5. That's okay. Yeah, right. I don't know if you see them. I do actually like cats because I like that they're fucks. Like, I really like that you'll just see, like, you know, like cat videos of them pushing stuff towards the edge of the table and then they realize that they're on, like, on camera and then either just don't break eye contact and knock the thing off the table or suddenly, like, push it back and you just look at them and you can see that they're thinking, I'm going to do it as soon as you fucking walk away. Like, I love them for that. And I also love that a cat will never give you attention until, like, they decide that you're not going to give them attention and then they want it. Yeah, there's a cat video festival. I only just became aware of this and it's making it really hard to go to Wet Coast because the cat video festival is on the same day as the Wet Coast GT. And I'll tell you, like, it's neck and neck. Like, I love War Dollies, but I love internet videos just as much. Yeah, so cats, I would assume is like a large room of toddlers. And you don't know what they're going to do, but sometimes it's great. So I actually do really love cats. I am like partially allergic to some. Like some of them I can just shove my face and in them and just love them. And then others of them I will like, you know, start to like water from the eyes. Like I've just watched a Leonardo DiCaprio movie. But the thing is though, I'm probably more dogs. It's the point that I'm making. And so I imagine that fire slayers of this particular lodge are kind of like that crazy animal person who is just like, you rock up and they're like, this is my friend, his name is, I don't know why he's French, this is my friend, his name is Jacques, and he is my beautiful little puppy dog, don't you want to say hello to him? And then it like breathes fire all over your best friend Jim, and he's like, oh, he likes him. You know, like that's the kind of person that they are. So I'm really keen to see that there's a bit more character coming to Fire Slayers other than just like angry and fire, because that sort of seemed to be their thing for a little while. They were just all about rage. So it's really groovy to see that that's what they're doing with them. I know that that Magma-droths in the previous edition were shit and are shit. For their points, they are not worth it. A friend described them best as expensive monster chaff, because that's effectively the job that they can do, is clear chaff and then be chaff themselves. But the problem is there are a lot of armies that have models that do that and are better at that and have more wounds in general and are like multiple units. Like it's basically like Magma-droths, as they currently are, just aren't good. And it's the reason you usually see none of them in top table Fire Slayers armies, back when Fire Slayers armies were everywhere. So what's going to be like fucking rad is seeing them come back with character, come back with guts. And let's be honest, like in Fire Slayers, the dwarf riding on the back of the child of one of like the realm gods, like Ignax, you know, like they're all little like farted out tiny little newt baby versions, but like these are the most awesome things that that should be in the realms, and the fact that they don't do stuff like that isn't right. They hurt you if you kill them. They like hurt them. They bleed on you, and their blood kills you. But yeah, it's just not there. Rerolling ones. I'm hoping that still works, because otherwise Rob might have discovered it. But I don't think it's with a capital D. So I don't think it's the D that triggers that one. Like lowercase d. Oh yeah, all right, cool. So we actually spoke about that a little bit earlier. Just to and we will just jump back, because obviously some people they pop in late, they come in different parts. But we had a look at that just a little bit a little while ago. My opinion of it is that I actually kind of like it, because I feel like the other stuff that's going to change is going to improve them significantly. Like I feel like the throwing axes might come down, but a lot of their other combat prowess, like their damage dealing stuff, because let's be honest, Fire Slayers should be doing the damage to you in combat, or with their shooting, like the magma guns. It shouldn't be like this secondary shit from an axe. So I agree with you that I'll be disappointed if the throwing axes have been brought down the way they have, and combat levels, like if Hearthguard Berserkers all pick up an extra attack or extra rend or extra damage or stuff like that, or things along those lines, I won't matter. But I do agree with you. If the throwing axes have come down and nothing else goes up, like across the board, that is shit. Like the problem that I had was that throwing axes were as good, if not better, in a lot of regards than the combat attack of the model with the weapon. So I like that the axes have come down. I just really hope that the combat potential goes up. I mean, the fact that they're all picking up an extra wound for me, it makes them feel in my heart, in my tiny bearded heart, like they're finally getting, yes, rerolling ones, it does work, fuck yes. It feels like they're finally getting the beefiness they should have, like the durability, and I really hope that then flicks over to their attacks, because let's be honest, they should all be batshit insane. You get hit by like a block of them, and I think you should expect to kill a bunch of Fire Slayers. That's the thing that doesn't roll for me right now. You should kill a bunch, but they should fuck you up hard. And like I loved seeing this. Let me just pull it up. I loved it when they popped this up. It just got me all gooey in all of the right places. The fact that this wasn't a part of their stuff from the very beginning is ridiculous. Like Blood Warriors and Plague Monks and everything like that are capable of piling in and attacking after they die, but not Fire Slayers, who literally fight on like when they're ripped in half or have had their entire arm blown off because they touched a strange rune that they found on the ground. It was insane. And so I dig. I'm guessing this is going to Volkites. I would actually love to see it be across the board, like every unit, but then that could be really hard to track. But the fact that you can go in, like say you've got 2 big blocks of Volkites going in against 2, like say Flesh Eater Courts, right? The big thing is that Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon can fight first at the start of the fight phase before anyone else, right? Can fight or before the combat phase or wherever the fuck it is, but first, yeah? Yeah, exactly. It's the Gristlegore counter, right? The thing that's raging through people at the moment for Flesh Eater Courts is a Vampire Lord on Terrorgeist. Like or Zombie Dragon, yes, but it's mostly the Terrorgeist because they can fuck you up because they fight first and they can be made to fight twice before you get around. Yes, Hypnocracken, I believe you're right. It's this and the extra wound. So they've all got an extra wound, which the fact that they were Fire Slayers had 1 wound was something I always used to talk about was dumb and shit, and I love that they fixed it. It gets me excited for this release. So they've got an extra wound, and they have this, which suddenly means that that Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon that's used to melting something and then going through it does its attacks and potentially, probably, gets killed back before it gets its second round of attacks. And the fact that this, you have to turn it on, like, yes, that sucks, but that you get to turn it on in the combat phase is just, yeah, like, it's good. It's good. And I think that everything that I'm seeing so far from their stuff is just really exciting me in regards to that. A big thing that we will have to see is how good the attacks this is going on are. Because Hearthguard Berserkers, for my money, have always been a little bit disappointing. They should have been a bit better. So they're going to get taken out. The Gristlegore, I think Fire Slayers are going to be a big contender against Flesh Eater Courts and a lot of those top tier armies. They'll struggle against Skaven though, because Skaven can do that shitty thing where they stop their movement or lock them in combat and retreat and things like that. It's going to be interesting to see there, but I do think that they will absolutely shit mix a lot of Flesh Eater Courts players that aren't expecting it. Now, yes, LLV, 100% right. Depending on their points, they make a great screen for Dispossessed. Even just a small unit of them to have, like, say, 10 models with 20 wounds. That's not something Dispossessed have. So they'd make awesome allies. Immediately, I'm excited for my Dispossessed armies because I'm going like, what new allies are we getting? Because as it stands, Dispossessed can't ally with Free Guild. They can't ally with a lot of things that you would expect them to be able to ally with. I believe it's pretty much just Stormcast, Fire Slayers, and Cadron Overlords. And maybe Ironweld Arsenal? I'm not 100% sure on Ironweld Arsenal. Yeah, it's good for Sylvaneth too. They get Ironbark, which is awesome. The Ironbark formation lets you take a Dwarden unit, which suddenly that opens it up as well technically. Elfbro, correct me if I'm wrong, can it still be a Chaos Dwarden unit? Like, because I'm pretty sure Legion of Asgore have the Dwarden keyword, which is fucked, and I disagree with wholeheartedly because they're bullshit. But there's so much cool stuff that could be coming out. Yes, Jim 980, you are 100% right. They can still attack when they're killed. However, they kill all those Fire Slayers, right, that they're in combat with, which triggers their pile in and attack back, which then kills him, and he gets to attack, but he's got nothing to attack because the unit that he just killed was the Fire Slayers that he's killed. And it sounds dumb because it means instead of killing, the difference is instead of killing 2 units and rampaging through your lines, that Kumquat's trapped to killing 1 unit. And if you can get the combat in, it's pretty decent. Oh, they've lost the Dwarden keyword. Oh, yes. Dawizan. Great. They've lost. Okay, so this just in. Chaos Dwarves are not Dwarden. They're not dwarves. Hot fact. Everybody tell Rob. Please tell Rob. Legion no longer have the Dwarden keyword. They're all hot shit. And that's great. That's a beautiful thing to know. The other thing that really does excite me about this and everything is that for the first time I find myself thinking that they seem like they're playing like dwarves, which is really cool. And this is the thing that makes me feel of them like Slayers. Because one of the things that in the old world, so in the Warhammer 8th edition and prior, Slayers, when they were killed, had the potential to kill something that they were fighting with, right? And it's the same now with the Unforged model. He gets to make an attack back when Slayers, before they were removed from the General's Handbook, they potentially got to attack if they died as well, or they got to like do mortal wounds. it was actually, I remember back when Slayers were a thing, right? I had a big block, 2 big blocks of 20 of them. And I remember, so their rule said that if this unit is, when a model from this unit is killed in the combat phase, roll a dice on a 4-up, the unit that killed them suffers a mortal wound. And that was hilarious because I was playing someone and basically in the combat phase, I'd done a charge and had gotten in with a big unit of Stormcast, but also like tagged a unit of fucking Flappy Birds, whatever they are, ether wings. So the guys with the crossbows got to shoot, and so they shot and killed a chunk of Slayers. And then I said to him, I was like, oh hey, so my rule is that I do a mortal wound on a 4-up. That seems silly. Can I do the mortal wound to one of the units I'm in combat with, and we'll just 4-up it or whatever, because that makes a lot more sense. And he was like really worried about losing the combat unit to me, so he was like, oh no, that we play it by the rule. You know, what's the range? And I was like, there's no range. And then he went, oh. And I kind of saw that moment on his face where he realized that he had just like said no to the logical thing that would have been better for his army, and just realized that his unit of 6 like Raptor Venators were about to cop a fuck ton of mortal wounds from like however many, like 20 inches away or something massive like that. So basically these Slayers ran into combat, got shot, and then as they were dying, just hoofed their axe like 20 inches across the board to nail the Stormcast that had just shot them right in the fucking helmet. And it was amazing. It was one of my favorite, most ridiculous cinematic moments in a game of War Dollies that I've ever had. And fuck, it excited me. And I just saw his face drop because he was like, oh, that's what you were talking about. And I was like, yep, super rough for you. But it was really, really cool. It was a cool rule that they had. And I really dig that Fire Slayers are picking up on that Slayer aspect. Because at the moment, Fire Slayers have been called Fire Slayers, but they're not that great at slaying. They're just kind of like fire chunkers, or like fire rocks of metal that don't die. And that's cool, like that, but that inability, like that refusal, stubbornness to die feels like a very dispossessed thing. Whereas the insanity and the damage and the craziness seems like a Fire Slayer thing. And it's always been ridiculous that dispossessed are better at combat and Fire Slayers are better at surviving. Never really been parity on that for me. So I'm really glad that that's come together. Fire curious, they're fire curious, definitely. They're kind of like, I like the fire and I'm full of rage, but not enough rage to go crazy and berserk, just enough rage to not wear pants. Hey, and let's be honest, right? If someone came up to me in the street and wanted to fight, I'm not saying I'd fight them. I'm a lover, not a fighter. Like, I'm never going to say that I'm an aggressive person. I don't have the forearm girth. I don't have the musculature or the temperament, really. I'm a big wet attack of potatoes, but I would still, like, I wouldn't just let them roll all over me. So basically, if someone came up and was like, oh, you want to fucking fight? I'd be like, no, man, I don't want to fight, but, you know, just like back off, like, stay away. If a naked dude came up to me in the street and went, oi, bro, you want to fight? I'd be like, not even, you win, I'm leaving. And then he'd be like, no, let's just fucking fight. And I would run. I would flee. So basically, I think the kind of thing there for me is that Fire Slayers are like terrifying in every single aspect. And at the moment, they don't feel terrifying because the reason they're scary is because they're like cockroaches and you just can't kill them. Now, that's not slaying. That's like disappointing. Yeah, definitely. And then all of the dispossessed, like that's how they justify it. They'd be like, look, I don't have a problem with Fire Slayers. Some of my best friends are made out of fire. I just find that you're not as good in combat as you say you are. They also, for the record, do not drink as much. Kharadron Overlords drink very little. Fire Slayers drink very little. Dispossessed are the most hearty drinking dwarves in the Mortal Realms, which is confirmed fact, for the record. Confirmed fact. F-A-K-T, fact. Dwarves having Gromnal armor, which is supposed to be the strongest armor in the realms, may be surpassed by like Stormcast plate. But the fact that that wasn't as good as naked dudes with runes in their flesh that made them more, like, gave them better endurance and things, Of course, fire slayers drink more than they plan on dying. Yeah. They plan on dying pretty much not at all, and they drink like a small amount more. And also the reason that fire slayers don't drink as much beer, I believe, is because most of the beers and things that they drink are that hot, that they're of a temperature where the alcohol starts to evaporate. It's like if you cook with alcohol, it takes a lot of the gusto out of it, which is really disappointing because I've done it a few times where I've cooked with it and thought it was the thing. I drink my whiskey like a manling. I've got something to tell you, and it's going to disappoint you. As much as I love Dispossessed, I am a man. I'm made of the flesh. At the moment, this whiskey is medicinal, and I hope everyone believes that because I've been taken out drinking like 3 nights in a row, and I'm struggling. I'm willing to admit that I'm struggling. And I know that some of you will be like, 3 nights in a row, that's not it. But I'm also real bad with jet lag. I've been here for a month, and it's not that I'm still jet lagged, it's that I've trained my body to be in a terrible time zone like frame. So I either need to get myself a job working late night at a bar to kind of balance that out, or I need to fix that by going to sleep at a reasonable hour, and I refuse to do that because no one tells me what to do. I'm my own man-child. But yes, I do. I drink my whiskey like a manling. Warp Spider. Oh my gosh. Wow, I got that without even having to do the maths. I'm just fucking great at this, right? I'll knock this back and I'll refill it just for you though, just this once. Okay? That's it. It's not going to be a regular thing. I think a couple of the guys have been talking about doing a drinking game. That's not going to... Well, actually, maybe we should, but we'll see. I don't want this to become the alcohol show, though I feel it's going to, because I feel that's really going to happen. Maybe we should do like alcohol reviews while we're drinking and stuff, but to your health. Oh, that was a waste. But still delicious. It just went down hard and made me do the face. I was like, that was a little bit too much in one. There's the problem with that with those is that the song doesn't really last that long because you do it. He tried to go to heaven, but he went the other way. So the Fire Slayers are getting a whole lot of cool stuff. I'm really excited. Now there's one thing that's kind of worried me, and that's when it first came out. The Adepticon news and releases and stuff. I saw the image, I shared it on Twitter, and I said it looked like a pizza oven. And that apparently that caught on a bit, and people keep messaging me about the pizza oven thing. That is because my whole life is basically based around pizza and things like that. And I lived in Italy for a year, so I know my way around a pizza. I know my way around a pizza. But that one of the pizza oven, people liked it, and a lot of people obviously connected with it. So if you haven't seen it, either check out Twitter, which you can just see the handle just down there, or have a look at Warhammer Community, look up the Adepticon stuff. I'll give you roughly 1 minute while I discuss this in case you haven't seen it, It's basically like a large face furnace with hand grips. If I fly to England for Bobo, will they let you back? Yes, if I do go to Bobo, I will be allowed to return to Vancouver or Australia, just about, as long as I stay away from Foster's, I assume, and I don't say anything rude about maple syrup. Yes, Nutscribe, I am talking about the pizza oven, the Fire Slayers pizza oven. Check out the Adepticon wrap-up or the image. It's one of the first few on my Twitter. If you have a look over there, there's the handle. You can check it out. So yes, and I love to Wet Coast Running. I'd love to get again. Rerolling ones. I have a thing where I don't take grudges, but only because my favorite thing is just get random matchups and meet people. However, drop me a message at Twitter or at anything, or at Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and we'll set up a game, or we'll try to do something like that. That'd be fucking cool. I'd love to meet you. So the pizza oven thing. Yes, LLV. I want to go. I just need money. Is the thing. need to make some money. So if I make enough money to go to Bobo, I will be going to Bobo, and you and I can bro out, and like we'll sit next to each other and we'll get a seat and we'll share drinks, and we'll do the thing where we interlock our arms and then drink from like a fruity little cocktail straw like together, and it'll be really great. So the pizza oven, basically the pizza oven thing is if you haven't seen it, too late, we're going to talk about it. It's like it's a head with two little side staunches things, and it's got its little mouth with the coals in it. And I get it. The idea is that runes are smelted there and stuff like that. I looked at it, I saw a pizza oven because it looks like a fucking pizza oven, like a badass pizza oven. Like no mistaking that, a sick badass pizza oven, but it's still a pizza oven. And then I spoke to Nathan. And Nathan had a different view of it. And obviously Nathan sees things in many different ways. He's a beautiful white cow. He's a white bull. He's just gorgeous. He's, unique, special among humans. And he described it as a blowjob machine, like a pocket sex toy, because it looks like it's got two handles on either side and then in the middle. And now I can't not see it or think about it. There's just no, it doesn't look like a thing that should exist. And like there's fire and coals in it, and it's just breaking me critically, because I like seeing it as a pizza oven I was okay with, but now I can't not see it as a blowjob machine full of hot coals. And Nightscribe, you've got it. Now you can't unsee that. That's like burned into there. Yeah, firelight. Like just, like it gives whole new meaning to just the tip. That doesn't do it for me. When I was eating pizza out of that, I was okay. But now that I have to imagine it giving me fellatio, I'm a lot less excited about how much beard it has. But all that said, it's an amazing terrain piece. I will be buying one just as a terrain piece for my table. But yeah, it's Nathan Prescott has ruined that terrain piece for me. But onto the other stuff there. They've got a whole lot of super... Yes, there's a burning sensation after you use it. Yes! Oh, that's amazing. That's great. Yes, bang on, right in there, hot and heavy, like a sack full of cats. LOV and Map Hashby and stuff like that. Hey, look, guys, the concept of getting over there is amazing, and you're wonderful talking about like GoFundMes and things like that. But I don't want to like. It's not the kind of thing I can't just ask people for monies and stuff like that. Like that's fucked. And like I'm not cool enough for that. So I would love to make it happen. I just need to make enough money. Which, I could possibly sell my body. That is an option. You'd buy my body for $1. Okay, so I only have to haul myself out like 600 times, and I can make it over there. That's okay. It's weird if you like it more. Oh God. No, that's not. I'd be a new kind of cam girl. That would be that wouldn't be healthy. I don't want. There's a list of things that you should never Google, and like Googling fiery blowjob machine, I imagine isn't one of them, or like hot coals blowjob machine. Like there's things that just shouldn't exist. However, all the stuff that has been released, all the stuff that they're putting out there, it's the fucking bomb. I'm super excited for it, and I really can't wait to basically just to see everything that comes out for that army. It excites me for it. It's not necessarily the kind of army that I want to play, because the thing I loved about Slayers was them being a unique element in my army in old Warhammer. So I'd really like to have a unit of them in my dispossessed army. That one bright sacrificial Lamington that wants to go forward and throw itself onto the stuff. Bring the forge. Do an ASMR stream. There we go. Yeah, actually that's it. I'll just become a cam girl and all. No, let's be honest. Like I don't have the body for it. Or the personality, to be honest. Like I say I'm a lover, not a fighter, but I'm a lover in the way that like a sloth loves to hang upside down from branches and then do a weird dance every time it needs to. Oh my God, if you haven't seen it, Google sloth doing a poo. Like after this, obviously after this, don't do it right now, but you should see how sloths poo. They climb like down the tree, hold the tree, and then do a little dance to like shake the poo out, because their bodies, I assume, are so lazy that they can't poo. So they have to dance. They literally dance their shit out. And it is just something, gummy penises on a dwarf pizza oven. Oh God. Oh God, yeah, okay. Gummy penises into, maybe on a pizza, like a gummy pizza covered in gummy penises could be, it could be a thing. Look, it's not necessarily the kind of thing that I want to see, but it is definitely like the kind of thing that I would force upon my opponents in an effort to break them on some kind of level. So the other like cool things that have come in the last little while, in the last couple of days, in fact, well, depending on where you are in Australia, obviously, is for those who aren't aware, in Australia, we had two big events over the weekend. We had the Anzac Cup. Now, the history of Anzac isn't something that I'm going to go in here, but it's effectively, it stands for Australian New Zealand Army Corps, Australia and New Zealand Army Corps, depending on how you want to work it out. And it's really important to us. Like it's actually a big part of our country's heritage and history. And if people are interested, like I'll do a fucking show on it. I'll tell you about Australia. We can, maybe that's it. Maybe we'll do every week from now on, the last like 20-30 minutes, I'll do a segment on some particular part of Australian culture, and we can have a chat about that, and I'll just introduce you to it, I guess. But the thing with that, it's obviously it's out in Canberra, which is where CanCon is held. Big event, lovely people, and it's a really, the reason I'm telling you about it is that the other thing that's cool, aside from the War Dollies, aside from the Age of Sigmar and the event itself, is that there's a lot of the profits and everything like that goes to supporting like the Anzac legacy, so soldiers and families of soldiers and things like that. It's really awesome. It's an amazing event, and I'm really glad it's picked up a lot of steam in the last year or so, and that's just fucking great, because not only is what they do awesome, the spirit of wargaming is kind of like, I know almost half of the people I know through War Dollies had something to do with the armed services, and they're fucking legends because they're like the loveliest people I've ever met, and then they just knock you silly all over a board, and they've usually got the best attitude that I've ever met. So they're just awesome humans. Really glad about that event. Now that event was taken out by Nighthaunt. Like, I know what you're thinking, like Nighthaunt, not Legion of Nagash, not Nighthaunt models in a Legion list. It was Nighthaunt. So, and in there was one unit of Grimghast Reapers. I don't think it was a full 30 though. I'm not sure if it was a full 30. There was 2 units, unless I'm mistaken. There was either one big unit or 2 small units of Bladegheists that you never see. They're actually, for my money, they're the part of the top 2 coolest models in a Nighthaunt range, and you never see Bladegheists. But the thing is, LOV, you were in the forces for a bit. There you go. That didn't explain why you're such a fucking legend then. Because you served, so you're just a regular, dead set, legendary human being. But God, I love you, LLV. Next week, we'll get you on the show next week, and we'll just bro down and drink and hug, and it'll be a really lovely spiritual thing. So yeah, just kicked the shit out of that. So the Nighthaunt took it out. And so first and foremost, just before we talk about the player, we'll talk about the army. And the army was Nighthaunt, which usually they are cherry-picked for their heroes and units to go into a Legions of Nagash army, because they are better than the units, and they benefit from the Legions of Nagash command like army-wide abilities significantly more. It's a bit fucked because like Legions of Nagash can take Nighthaunt, but they can't take Flesh Eater Courts. Like I don't know. Like I think Nighthaunt and Legions of Nagash should be separate. And if you take Nighthaunt in them, they should be allies, so they don't get access to your command abilities and shit like that. So basically the event itself being taken out there was awesome. The Nighthaunt list had Lady Alinda. It had the named character Reichner, the Grimhailer. It had the chick from Shadespire, from Nightvault. Sorry, the Briar Queen. The color scheme is spectacular. look up Ash McEwen. So the winner was Ash McEwen. If you look up the Anzac Cup stats, or if you're anywhere on Twitter or whatnot, you'll find it. He's a wonderful painter, a beautiful, beautiful painter. He's won multiple painting awards for his Ironjaws and his Tzeentch, and now his Nighthaunt keep getting nominated, and they might have won it. They're like purple and bright fluorescent and black, sorry, bright fluorescent lime, and the colors just pop and they look otherworldly. It's a very beautifully painted army. And this is the thing, a sweet purple sun. He took the purple sun, so 100 points of Endless Spell. Now to compare it, the purple sun compared to, say, the Comet is 100 points. And I'd say, oh, Comet's probably a bit better. You flip that around, you flip that and compare it to, say, 100 points for the Vortex, for the Void there, the Warpstone Vortex thing that Skaven have. And you better fucking believe that that Vortex is way better for 100 points than the Purple Sun. But I remember talking to Ash before CanCon, because he's taken the same army to CanCon, about why he took it. And his point was that a big part is for those elements is that Purple Sun offers your opponent, and it's why I think Endless Spells are being really underutilized. Those big scary spells, like if you're looking at a Purple Sun across the board, yeah, and you're looking at it and you're going, it only kills models on a 6, right? So 1 in 6, the odds of that being rolled are pretty low. But then in your head, you're going, he's going to roll a fuck ton of 6s if I take the turn and he gets to move it first at priority. Or he'll move it next to a character and of course he'll roll a 6 and it'll just nuke that character. Like if you're looking at a Purple Sun, it is imposing. It's like staring down, oh God, I imagine Mickey Rourke. After he's had a rough day, like he lost a tooth, like he got punched in the face and lost a tooth, but didn't get to spit it out. Like it just got knocked out and he didn't get to do the tough man and spit out his tooth and then glare at you. That's the Mickey Rourke that you're looking at across the table, right? And if you haven't seen Mickey Rourke do stuff, you should see Mickey Rourke do stuff because he's a fucking legend. But it's like staring down that. So 100% I would look at the Purple Sun and say, and like give the turn just for that. So yeah, I think the Purple Sun in that list was a huge risk. It was a big point sink that you could potentially achieve with something else. However, for sheer intimidation value, there is not much better than the Purple Sun. And he may have had the chains as well, the chainy chain endless spell that grabs you and stops you moving, whatever. But the big one was the Purple Sun. It was just awesome. So yeah, there's the whole list. I think he's shared. Check him out because he's got it all. And yeah, the list itself was lovely. The thing I really liked is if you look at it, it didn't rely on one thing incredibly, like take 60 Grimghasts or 80 Chain Rasps or something like that. It was a wonderful toolbox. And that for my money, there's two kinds of list. Okay, so we're going to go into a little bit of Age of Sigmar theory. For those who have heard this before, I apologize, but I think this is one of the most important things with list building. And that's whether you work out what your list is. You either take a toolbox list, which is exactly what it says. It's a toolbox. Your list is a box of shit to pull things from and to work out what it is that you want to do with. Oh, and so we're talking about Nighthaunt, so I should activate my sexy Nighthaunt art just there. Thank care of Scrivo, who does do commissions and is amazing at what he does. So if you check out Scrivo's stuff. John Scrivens does all the art for the Honest Wargamer. That's his there. That's his there. Pretty sure that's his as well. Just everything that looks sexy, apart from my physical face, which is that's thanks to my parents. So mum, dad, or mum postman, or dad test tube, whatever it was. Thank you so much for giving me this. I mean, you could have probably tried a little bit harder, but that's still freaking cool. But you've got a toolbox list, which is a list that's built around a number of different tools and counter it. So when you play someone, the question becomes, what do you have? Do I have tools to counter your tools, and then ask questions of your army that you can't answer? Because that's the way I like to describe it is questions. The whole game is asking your opponent questions. It's going like, your question might be at deployment, and your question is, I have a Star Drake. And if your opponent doesn't have an answer for that question, they're in a lot of trouble. Or I have 120 Volkite Berserkers. Do you have an answer to that question? So a toolbox list has a lot of answers. And on a secondary level, it's got a lot of like questions to ask, but none of them are really big ones. A win condition army, that's the two types. So there's a toolbox army and a win condition army. A win condition army basically has one, maybe two big questions, right? Like, so for example, to talk about Daughters of Cain, I feel like they only ask two big questions, yeah? And the two big questions are, can you kill my cauldron turn 1? And can you survive multiple rounds of combat with Daughters of Cain? Like with the straight up daughters stabbing you a fuck ton of times in the face. Really like, and like the Hag Queens and their buffs and all of that, that's, for me, that's all secondary to most of the time. If you see an army that fits the mold of, let me just psychically draw up the mold of that army, Marathi, Cauldron of Blood, Hag Queen, 20 to 30 witches, 20 to 30 witches, Sisters of Slaughter, and then 2 units of either snakes or flappy shit. I feel like that's most armies, and probably Hagnar or Celeborn or something. That army really is only asking you 2 questions. And the Sisters of Slaughter and all of that the Hag Queens can buff and do whatever they want, but really, if you can't survive, like weather the storm of witch elves, and if you can't kill the cauldron, you can't, realistically, you can't win the game. You might, not saying you won't, but you might, yeah? So the thing with a win condition list is if you ask most of the time, a win condition list is one that asks the question, and then if your opponent has an answer, is in trouble. Like, for those that remember Goutfire Scorch, now Goutfire Scorch just let like Storm Fiends and Warpfire teams pop up around wherever the fuck they wanted, and really your only way to stop that was to, with your army, could answer the question of, can you zone me out? Do you have enough models to completely block me from deploying my mortal wound engines near your units and stuff like that? And yeah, you're 100% right. It was super broken. But basically that army, it asked a question. And if you couldn't answer the question of, yes, I have a fuck ton of bodies and I've got tons of chaff, if you didn't have that answer, you realistically probably weren't going to win the game if you were playing against someone who knew how to use it well. You could still beat it. It was doable, but it was very difficult. The original Skaven cheese, yes, hated by almost everyone who played against it. So yeah, Nightscribe, you're 100% right. Skaven players ask themselves a number of questions. They are usually, do I want to risk killing more enemies for killing myself? And then the answer to that is always, I play Skaven. I didn't play Skaven to not kill myself. And I remember watching, so Dan Brewer of winning SAGT, one of the most, I would argue the most talented players in Australia, probably a top couple, 1 or 2 Skaven players in the world. And no, that's a big call. But he was winning tournaments and podiuming with Eshin, like a pure Eshin army back a couple of years ago. So he knows his stuff. And the cool thing is you play him and you feel like you learn a lot about Age of Sigmar playing against him. But with his Skaven cheese and like all of that shit coming out, we had a little demo just to test out the rules when they said it. And so I think his Bombardier with the missile thing, it overcharged in the hero phase, its Warp Lightning thing, and killed a unit of Evocators, or killed a fuck ton of Evocators, or Evocators on cats or something like that. But then in the next, in the shooting phase, shot the rocket and overpowered the rocket and blew himself up and killed himself. And it was just perfect. It was a perfect example of how Skaven should play. Like, they delete their opponent and then they delete themselves because the Skaven players are Icarus. You are all Icarus. And you're just trying to work out how close to the sun you want to fly, because sometimes it's too close and you burn. And sometimes it's not and you're fucking fine. And that's also great. But yes, if you're a Skaven player and you lack confidence as a Skaven player, you're not playing Skaven. You're not right. You need to roll the dice. Monkey dog players are top tier individuals. Yes, very top tier. So the point that I'm making though is that the Skaven like balance cost blah blah blah, that's maybe not necessarily a toolbox, but I like Skaven maybe break the mold a little bit in that they're sort of a toolbox, but their tools are all win conditions. So it's mostly you're playing against Skaven and they're hoping that they don't really have answers to questions. They just have so many different questions, and all they're hoping for is that one of them they actually get out and you don't know the answer to. But yes, and the pure Skaven logic of how can we possibly fail? We are the best. We're literally the best. Everybody else is worse than us. I mean, we live underground for now, but that's our choice. We're living underground because we wanted to, not because we couldn't live above the ground. This is our house, is basically the Skaven way. But that's kind of talking about the two, for those who've just joined, the two different types of list. So you've got toolboxes and win conditions. And I love that what Ash has put together with that Night Haunt list that took out the Anzac Cup is a fantastic toolbox list. Now it's got tons of great questions. It's got questions that, like, if your question is, I have a whole lot of infantry, there is an answer to that. If the question is like, I've got really tough individual models, there's an answer to that. There's an answer to like, what if I lose priority, which is the purple sun. So if my opponent chooses to give it to me, that's kind of cool, because if you cast purple sun and move it right and then maneuver your movement phase correctly, which Ashley is a very, very good player, so I imagine he would have, you can kind of mitigate the threat of the sun coming back and hurting you. Whereas your opponent, if they take the turn, you get to hit them twice with the purple sun. And even though on paper, for 100 points, it's not worth it, I think what Ash has realized, and what other people might start to realize now after seeing how well he's done, is that the purple sun is such a better mind game as well. Because if you're playing someone with a Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, they know they've only got a 1 in 6 chance of you rolling a 6, but if you do, that's 2d6 mortal wounds on it. So it's a wonderful, wonderful way to mess with your opponent, to kind of force them to not automatically take the turn at priority. There's tools in Magic. The question of like the purple sun is a risk to cast, but having Reichner who can like take the old mortal wound and cast with extra strength, and then being able to heal, it's just really, really well put together. It's a wonderful list. There's a black coach in there as well. It doesn't rely on any single unit to carry it, which means that you have lots of different stuff. It's got a lot of things to shut you down, so debuffs. It's got a lot of stuff that hurt you. I think it's just a surprise it's taken this long to see him do this well. However, he was, out of 220 players at CanCon, he was in the top tables in the last game, and I'm pretty sure he finished quite strongly with it too. So the other thing that I'm really stoked about is to see Nighthaunt do well, so that people can stop taking Grimghast in Legions of Night, because that is just fucked. Like, Grimghast Reapers are a great unit in a regular army as an ally when you can bring them back as easily as Legions of Nagash can and return them for 1 command point. They straight up fucked. So cheers, Grimghast Reapers. You're a bunch of dicks. You're totally fucked. So Jim 980 saying that he played at the Anzac Cup and came up against a purple sun, and it totally mind fudged you. It fudged your mind up so hard. Like, how much fudge did it feel like was in your mind at that time? Because, and my question to you actually, Jim, would be, did you win a priority while the sun was up? And how heavy was its effect on what you did with regards to priority, and then any of your turns while the sun was around? Because like, my experience of the purple sun was something there, and I don't want to, I hate when people ask a question and then totally influence someone with their answer. So I want to get your answer, and then I'll talk about mine. So it was a factor in taking or handing over the turn. Yeah, right. Okay, so it kind of, like, when that was out there, it really messed with what your decisions were made. Now, whether or not you win or lose the game as the player that has the purple sun, I think for sheer menace and threat, there is not much better in any of them. Because the thing is, like, Comet does a fuck ton of damage, But then after that, it's motionless and it sits there, and you can negate it by getting out of the way. And yes, your opponent can dispel it and then recast it again if they've got 2 spells and they roll well. But that doesn't necessarily, you can't affect that other than trying to dispel and kill their casters potentially. But it really is, they can do that if they're in range and if they have it. Whereas the Purple Sun, you're like, I can be in control of that, and I don't want to be. And I don't want it to be the other way around, so maybe I do want to hand it over. So yeah, totally. Like it sat there staring at you, eyes just boring into your soul, and yeah, it was rough. Oh, you were playing Nighthaunt as well, so it was like the sun, Purple Sun should technically be your friend. Well, no, I don't think it's friends with anyone, but I really like that he put that in there. So Nighthaunt, as we can see, just there, a little fella like there. John Scrivo's art. Scrivo's a fucking legend. Just tell him to lay off the sauce if you're ever talking to him, because he's got a bit of a drinking problem. He doesn't. He just got really drunk at an event I was at and couldn't make it to day 2. Now, normally that wouldn't be a bad thing, but he was supposed to be doing all the tech for the live stream at the time, and we've never let him live it down. But it was a really interesting list to see. I really dug it. I'd actually like to see a lot of the lists from Anzac Cup, because they were not meta lists by any stretch of the imagination. They were different, like quite far out from what we'd expect the norm. There was a lot of KO, there was a lot of different stuff going on in there. So yeah, it was an interesting tournament. So I want to hunt down the lists for that. The other big one that we had, so Anzac Cup over in Australia, won by Nighthaunt. That's the big thing to take away, because Nighthaunt have kind of been seen as second string to Legions and Nagash. That's not the truth. They are there. They just need to be played kind of cleverly. Sorry, Jim is saying here, you won every priority and you took 1 because you needed a charge and get. Yeah, okay, right. So Jim's saying, like he was just saying before, he was playing against the Purple Sun. Purple Sun's on the table. He won every favorite. He won every priority and gave away all but 1 because he desperately needed a charge. So I'm assuming that having a gigantic purple nutsack, semi-nutsack, it's Lance Armstrong's nutsack. The Purple Sun of Xerxes is Lance Armstrong's nutsack. Can we please make that a thing? Please, please, yes. If anyone ever asks, the Purple Sun of Xerxes is Lance Armstrong's nutsack. That is, or Purple Sun of Shaiish, or whatever the fuck it's called. Mr. Mephisto, lovely to see you. How's my favourite Chaos Dwarf enthusiast? Fuck you. But that is an interesting little segue that you have provided me there, because there's another event that we need to talk about that happened in Australia. And that event, obviously, was the heats. So Australia's had its first round of heats. And those heats were not won by... well, they were won by Flesh Eater Courts, sorry, to be honest, which is to be expected. I guess the disappointing thing is that Flesh Eater Courts are at the point, like they went from being the army that if they won an event, people would like do backflips with excitement at the fact that Flesh Eater Courts did that well. Now Flesh Eater Courts are at the point where they win an event and you're just like, yeah, and the sky's blue, so what else? So Flesh Eater Courts, so they were 1 and 3rd LLV. Is that it? So the 3 Flesh Eater Courts lists in the top 5. Oh, of course, yeah. So there were a ton of Flesh Eater Courts that did well, and that's why. So it's a little disappointing, but the honest truth, and there's no reason to not be honest about it, is that Flesh Eater Courts do well, and people go, oh, yep. And if you were, the shock would be if you were like, I played Flesh Eater Courts and I came last. People would go, the fuck did you do? Whereas if you play Flesh Eater Courts and you win, no one cares how you did it, because they know the way you won was by having Flesh Eater Courts. Now, I'm not saying that that takes anything away from the player. You can have the best army in Age of Sigmar and be bad at the game and lose, right? So there's sorry, just having a quick catch up with everybody else. 9 health. Yeah, Hex Wraiths go down. Yeah, Hex Wraiths could probably do the drop. That's it. Coming in 5th as well. That's 5th is no bad shakes. That's still qualifying levels though, isn't it? Coming in 5th in, and so obviously in Australia we have the heats, the Age of Sigmar heats leading to the final, just like they do in the UK. So I'm pretty sure 5th still qualified. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, and I think there are a number of people out there who there are some people who are being drawn towards Flesh Eater Courts as a way to play an army that they definitely love. Like, you wouldn't build and paint an army you didn't love, but also the sheer fact that their amount of output is just insane. And I really do think that whenever something like this happens and we have something that dominates the scene, you do have to ask yourself, like, where's my fun? Like, is your fun in winning tournaments? In which case, play Flesh Eater Courts, play Skaven, that double down on casting, play all of those armies, play Legion of Night with tons of Grimghast Reapers, because those armies consistently do well, and all you need is a couple of good games to go your way, and you probably get close to taking out, if not take out the tournament. But the thing with a lot of these other kind of lesser lists that we see doing well, and you don't need to be bottom tier, but seeing Khorne take out CanCon, it was Gore Pilgrims, which gets a bad rap for being quite predictable, but it's Gore Pilgrims that, with a few other things you don't usually see, played a very good game and won. And so I think you've got to ask yourself what your fun is. Because for me, I don't get as excited about doing well with the current best army, because I kind of like, but maybe that's because the armies I like aren't necessarily the ones that are doing well. Maybe that's it. I also like being a hobby hipster. Maybe that's just it. I get bored of seeing the same models. So if somebody else is playing the other thing, I don't get really excited about it. But yes, there are a number of people, I think, who, if your fun is a challenge and want to win and be regarded for doing something awesome, or doing something with an army that isn't common, or doing something along those lines, you very much probably should be avoiding them. Or not avoiding them, but you have to think about whether you want to bring them or not. Because if you do, people are going to think that you won because of, like, yeah, you know, like, they're just going to go, yeah, okay, well, that's kind of it. But the thing that we do have to talk about, that I did admit, is that I would talk about the fact of who came second. And this is the conversation that I think hurts more than Flesh Eater Courts winning. And that is the fact that Legion came second. Fake Dwarves came fucking second. And it was none other than the man that I had on last week's show. So have a listen to last week's show. It's in the second hour of what ended up being a mammoth fucking show. Hypno Kraken, you're triggering me pretty hard, and you got yourself a real good buff, with those bits that you threw earlier for the Aussies. Like, fuck, you're a legend. But then you say that, and suddenly I'm stuck between misbegotten rage and also like love. And I don't know how to reconcile that. It's like I feel the same way towards you as I feel towards my childhood fish, who wouldn't stop jumping out of the bowl and broke my heart when he eventually jumped out of the bowl and died. Maybe it was because I didn't clean it enough, or I hadn't been feeding him, or whatever. But like, you are like my childhood fish just now. So yeah. And they came second last. So they came second and they came second last, which means that there is a in the middle. They kind of balance out. So the stats even out. 100% right. They even out. They're right in the middle. But basically, like, the thing that is kind of interesting to talk about in regards to it is that the whole thing with them coming second is that they shouldn't have done that well, which means either they were played really well or whatnot. I think, and the only army, to his credit, that Gabe went down to, the only army and I don't want to steal his thunder, but he sent me a quote that he wanted me to read out, is that he lost to Flesh Eater Courts, which, to be honest, like, can we really blame anyone? DJ Batman, actually Batman, yeah. There is only one Batman, and it's I imagine that, yeah, okay, we'll start our own Justice League. I'd really fucking love it if we could start like a good Justice League in the chat. That would be awesome, because I'm still waiting for one of those pop culture references. But Gabe with his Legion, he didn't necessarily have an easy run. He played Ironjaws, Sylvaneth, and Khorne. Now let's remember, Sylvaneth's still strong, just as they always have been. Ironjaws, 50-50. Like, you either see like pants punching brutally awesome Ironjaws, or like the happiest Ironjaws player with a terrible list. Like, they're the kind of the two balances. He played Khorne, who have recently got a book and are currently like with that book, in my opinion, kicking it. He played Dispossessed, and it was a 1-drop Dispossessed list as well. He got the win on them. Now that breaks my heart, but that also does make me feel like Gabe's win, it's worthy to admit that he played well, because he won with fake dwarves against real dwarves. And now I can't reconcile and say that that happened because he is, like, their army is better, because I know that Dispossessed are better than Legion. But we can admit that he had to play real good to make that happen. So respect there. And the only loss, of course, going to Flesh Eater Courts. Brian, you've got a Death Lantern ring. Okay, well, I always carry around an orange lantern ring with me because I'm a selfish motherfucker. But they beat your trees. Yep. He had some war dogs. He had some angry war dogs. But he had a quote. So if someone ever takes out a tournament, I offer them the opportunity to give me, and I can get in contact with them quick enough, the opportunity to give me something that they would like me to say. Now, previously, Dan Brewer, when he won the SAGT, made me to talk about how good Skaven beards are and how they must be superior because they've podiumed more recently than Dispossessed, and it broke my heart. Gabe, when I offered him this opportunity, had a fucking banger lined up, locked, loaded, and ready. So this is a quote from Mr. Gabe of the Runax Wargaming. Give him a look. Check out the last episode if you want of an Aussie. And you don't carry your ring because you're not super... I know, it's valuable, man. Someone will see it. So basically, the quote he said was, "Chaos Dwarves, putting the possessed in dispossessed since 2019. So, congratulations to Mr. Gabe at the Runax Wargaming for coming second with fucking Legion of Asgore and only losing to Flesh Eater Courts, but also coming second above Flesh Eater Courts and also having another Flesh Eater Courts player in the top 5, I believe. So, Flesh Eater Courts doing well, Legion of Asgore coming second and bottom second. So, you know, snaps for them. There's Skaven in Blood Bowl team, 2 injured players. Yeah, okay, yeah. Skaven in Blood Bowl are not known for their durability though, so they can, or maybe you're just a terrible like Russian coach who just keeps throwing them at the enemy until something happens that you like the result of, which it wouldn't be a terrible way to do it, I guess. Look, there's not a crazy amount of other stuff that we know about of the events that have been happening around the world. I know that we had one dayer, I think over in Europe somewhere, that was won by Skaven, I believe, but LLV, as he firmly puts it, is that one dayers aren't big enough for stats, and so they might be fun, they might be competitive, but they just don't do it for us. But look, I think there are a few things that have to kind of happen in the next little while that I'd be really excited to see. A big one is Flesh Eater Courts being brought in line, because at the moment they're just a little bit out of there. I'm really excited to see what happens with the Fire Slayers, because at the moment they're nowhere, and the last time they got new rules and new stuff in the second General's Handbook, they suddenly got a huge buff in popularity. So I'm excited to see them again just because they're sexy models, they're great, and I wish that they were getting a little bit more instead of what they have, which is kind of the same thing all the time. But I guess the big thing, night LLV, have a wonderful evening, sleep well, you beautiful tiger prince. The other thing that we need to obviously talk about is the big thing for me is that constantly Flesh Eater Courts are at the top tables and they're doing well. Now, I'm not saying that that means you shouldn't play them, right? If you like them, if you like the lore, if winning's your thing, if you're a very competitive player who knows that they're not a big fan of losing and like you're only really concerned with your element of the game, like go ahead, play them. Like I said before, whatever your fun is with war dollies, some people it's building, painting, converting, playing, winning, like telling stories because they love narrative, they love open play because they love big massive fucking battles, they're not interested by anything that isn't like full on, then do that. It is a hobby, find your fun. But if all we talk about is Flesh Eater Courts winning and what that means and everything like that, I guess the question is like, what does that mean for them? Because I don't necessarily want to play an army that just keeps winning. Like, I don't know if that's very exciting. I think I'd prefer to be involved in an army that has to achieve something. But for me, story is my favorite side of the hobby. That's where my fun is. Yeah. Oh, Brian, man. Fucking, I love the meta. And the thing that I'm really digging and the thing I'm really kind of happy about is the fact that recently we saw kind of the meta shift from a handful of how fucking awesome that they were. For a quick stat. So, okay, so LOV throwing a quick stat out there. Since the new book, Flesh Eater Courts win 3 or more games 90% of the time. That is fucking... So basically, if you're playing Flesh Eater Courts at a 5-game tournament, you average like 60, like 90% of the time you win 60% or more of your games. That's fucking insane. So they're and they've just absolutely, they're not crazed. They're just pretty fucking standard for it. I'm not saying that that's not it. That they don't need to do stuff to change necessarily all of it. They just need to find a way to make it so that we're not talking about the same thing. Yeah, oh no, sneaky stats. LLV, he loves them so much that they boil over and he just has to get them out, and that's when he gives them to you early. So it's great having him in the chat. And I'm going to try and get him on the show next week if we can manage it, or the week after, because I think it'd be awesome, especially because we're getting ready we're gearing up for the Wet Coast GT over here, obviously, which I'm taking Dispossessed to, and I think I'm going to submit mine tonight because I get really excited, and also because I know TOs like to get... and this should just be across the board. If you're going to an event that has a list submission, don't wait till the night before. Don't be that guy. And basically like that's going to make life so much harder for them because they have to go through things last minute. The earlier you can get your list to them, the better. And I know anyone who's ever run a tournament with list submission would be fucking stoked. And they'd be like, you know what, you're the best little gem in all of the world. Now, the last couple of things before, we do have to wrap it up, unfortunately. We had a big show last week. And so this week, we're not going to go quite as long just because I don't want to go insanely long every week. But next week, we've got some cool stuff. Got some people and some interviews that I want to bring you. We're trialing a segment. Don't know how that's going to go. It's going to work. And like I was talking about before, we'll do like a history moment. And you can learn things about things you never even knew. Like when we learnt about the Emu War. Remember, for those who've been watching for a few shows, the Emu War. The one war fought on Australian soil and we lost it to emus. Yep. You can Google that. Australia declared war on emus at some point. And we sent the military out to deal with them. And we lost. We lost a war against flightless birds. It was not our finest moment. Not one we care to remember. And also, please remember that hidden in Nightbot are 2 commands that I added in So they are !dispossessed and !legion. So please, oh yeah, Elf Bro, you're at work. Yeah, you should probably be doing work. Have you grudged emus? All of Australia has grudged emus. So if you want, in other Honest Wargamer shows, try to sneak in the commands !dispossessed and !legion. But here's the game. The idea is to not let Rob or Nikos or anybody else who's doing it become aware of what's happening. Now, if you manage it, take a screenshot and send it to me. Because what I would really like to do is have a whole list of screenshots that when he finally becomes aware, I can show him have been coming up for the last however many months. Again, it's not about getting caught. We don't want to get caught. We want to try and keep this up for at least the next 6-ish months so that when it finally does come out, I can be like, because right now, our show right now, you beautiful people with me, is in the middle of the fucking night for them. So if you're in the UK, snaps for you because you are up in the middle of the goddamn night. I love you. You're a legend. You're probably like a baker, I assume, or a butcher or a candlestick maker. And yeah, but Mr. Mephisto, he does sometimes read the chat. And so we don't want him catching wind of this. So do it and then take it. But yeah, just with warning lights. You show like big emergency shit goes off in the room. It's why finding this office was so hard. But we want to try and get it in there as many times so that I can just have pages of images of people who've snuck it into the chat on his shows, basically saying Dispossessed are great and Legion are bullshit when he finally discovers it. So again, don't overuse it, just sneak it in there and we'll see. And every little now and then we'll add another one into the mix. Just because he gave me access to the passwords and everything for it. And that was obviously a terrible mistake on his part. Bad judge of character to throw that my way. Now, anyone, yeah, there it is. Oh, looks so good. But the other thing as well is if you are coming up for Wet Coast GT or if you're going to the Wet Coast GT, I can't wait to fucking meet you. If you're coming up for it and you want to play a game, I'd love to play a game. I really want to meet everyone and have just an awesome time. I'm super excited because I've been here for a month now and I've met so many people, but everyone I've met has been just the best. God, you're a good bunch. I guess that's Waterley players everywhere, right? We're all just a bunch of very attractive, very lovely human beings who should all get together and roll some dice. And that's been wicked. So really keen to get... But... oh, went down the wrong pipe. But the other thing that we need to stay wary of, and we need to be aware of, is that Bobo is coming up, and I haven't seen enough Dispossessed confirmed. I've only seen one, and it's LLV. If you're going to Bobo, take Dispossessed. It'll make you a better person, it'll make you more attractive, and it'll make you a much more virile lover. These are facts that we know to be true about Dispossessed players. So please, if you are thinking of going to Bobo and you're thinking of not taking Dispossessed, just change your mind. Because the Bravery 1 British Open deserves to have more than one Dispossessed army played at it. If I can make enough money, I will be there. Because Dispossessed are the future. And Legion of Asgore, despite coming second in the Australian heats, can eat a sack of shit. But as always, thank you so much to everyone who's been with me tonight, flying solo for today's show. Whether you're a subscriber or a Patreon, or you're watching on YouTube, or you're watching this back on Twitch or YouTube after the fact. And Hypno-Kraken for throwing some bits. The Honest Wargamer obviously doesn't have sponsorship, so anything that you put towards the shows goes into the shows, and it's surprising the amount of things you don't think about that you'll need. Like being the technical shit to be able to draw on screens, the ability to put things together. Oh yeah, shit, Mr. Mephisto, fuck yeah, I'll have to get you on for one. We'll have a bit of a chat. We can actually talk as human beings, which would be nice. I mean, like typing is lovely, but oh, you never sleep. Okay, well that's probably a medical problem. You should look at that, but at the same time, sleep is for the weak. But anyone who in any way supports this show, it's actually super appreciated. You do an amazing job helping us out. And realistically, all of this only happens through the incredible work that is put in by a large number of people. So like, yes, there's a handful of us that you see, but like there's Scrivo behind the scenes who's putting so much amazing shit together. We've got so many cool things happening with the show. And so it's really exciting to be a part of it, but it's also really cool that we've had so much support from so many wonderful people. If you recently came from the Adepticon, I know Rob and Nathan met a bunch of fucking legends there and just had the best fucking time. So thank you for everyone who meets us, or like the amount of people that I meet as well. And please, if you do meet us, tell us who you are, like in the chat or on Twitter or wherever we interact. Because the amount of times I've met people and I'm like, I'm talking to them, and I'm like, it goes the same way every time. I'm like talking to them, I'll go chatting, and I'm like, you're a fucking legend. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm blah, blah, blah on Twitter. And I'm like, oh, that's fucking right. You're a legend. I fucking love you. So tell us who you are, because that way we can just skip the faff and getting to know each other, and we can just go straight to being brothers and sisters. But thank you everyone who's tuned in this evening. We will be back for another show on the next Monday, which will be the show prior to West Coast GT. So hopefully by then, hopefully I'm not putting it on LLV and Andy the TO too much, but we'll have lists that we can go through. We can talk about missions and we'll talk about stats and stuff like that. But other than that, you've been amazing. Thank you so much to everybody, and have an incredible evening / morning / afternoon / lunch, wherever you are. And bar weep, grana weep, mini bomb.